She was a high schooler in her teen years. Years of discovery were upon her. Her destiny awaited her, though she was not aware of it. Her father owned a company, a drug company. Piffler's was a success story, a $1 billion jaw-breaking giant. The cure it prided itself in uncovering, the doing away of a most toxic illness, the AIDS virus. Applause, accolades, tremendous support from above and below. Its drawback, the construction was very dangerous. Emerald was pleased with her father. Emerald was to be the heir of a great company. She attended the best school in the city of Temperance, but twilight brought destruction. You're scrapping us? After all of our hard work to develop your drug? Dusk must be no more. Your power hunger and malicious thirst for wealth will drain our company's resources. Dusk is no longer our subsidiary, and we retain full rights to the drug, as we purchased it last year. Very well, madman, very well, but silent secrets will be the undoing of Pifflers. Meaning? Beware not of me, but of your life. And that dark character with his many bodyguards took his leave of this business royalty. But take courage, there is more to this tale. And that bright girl attended school and hung out with friends. They were truly her best friend, except for one, who plotted her demise. Kenneth could not stand her. He wanted to be more beautiful than her, but she always outshone him. I hate her, he would say under his breath quite frequently. The snake that he was, a terrible viper, who would bite the necks of those he hated and kill them with terrible poison. Was he a devil? No, human, but like a devil, he plotted. There isn't time to remember what was left of this blasted story, said the old man with the bird on his shoulder, but I will now tell you the rest. Emerald walked down the halls of her school and went to her locker, and she opened it. Out fell a voodoo doll. She screamed. Then behind her someone tapped her shoulder. My shoulder, she said, then turned about. Megan, she said. Of course, who else? We should go to lunch together. And they held hands and walked to lunch. But that voodoo doll was left there. It began to shake. But this does not concern us. What concerns us is glass. Glass shattered in the lunchroom. Men dressed in heavy black clothing with guns and knives grabbed Emerald and took her away in their helicopter. The other students were shocked. But then that doll, it was hovering in the air. What's that, they said, and shot in ignorance. But the bullets were deflected at them. The helicopter fell. The doll disintegrated. But who had placed the doll there? She jumped from the copter as it fell and landed in a tree. Scratched and battered, she lay between branches and birds pecked at her hair. The men were arrested. They had no known affiliations with anyone. What was their motive? Was it money? Kenneth stared at her from the ground, giving a wicked glare. I hate you, he said. Then he climbed up to get her. Birds pecked at him. The sun was setting and Emerald's father came personally to the clinic to retrieve her. He looked at Kenneth and smiled. I heard you helped my daughter. Thank you. Think nothing of it. Then with an expression most peculiar, Kenneth left the clinic. But beware, he said as he left. He's a bit odd, though, said Emerald's father to himself. Then, heartily, he lifted his daughter and brought her to the car, and drove her home. A dark cloud followed their car home. It changed to bats, and circled around them, as they got out of the car, and then flew off into the sky. Her father, Patrick, was most disturbed, as bats. We don't see bats around here often. This could be bad luck. Then he opened the door to the rather large house in the rather far-off place where it was located. A dull place, with not much scenery. Worth pondering. But we do ponder things, don't we? I have them prisoner, he said at the dinner table. You have who prisoner? Said Emerald, not much amused. Your kidnappers. They're in jail. No, no. The ones who send them. Why not just call the cops? No need. I'll find great use for them. Emerald knew her father was this way often, but in her eyes he was still a light. She went to bed, but on the way she went to that place where prisoners go, the research room. Stepped inside and stomped her foot and shouted, Listen, I'm letting you out. But when I do, you must not tell my father. We are Dusk. Don't you know that? It doesn't matter. This way. But to go out the front door was unwise. One would just be caught immediately. He might be wicked, she thought to herself. They took the back route, which led to a bridge across a refinery for the AIDS drug. They grabbed her wrist, one of the men from Dusk. "What are you doing?" "Unwise," they said, and threw her into a vat. Emerald screamed. Her father murdered her. What a shame, and also, they set the controls to self-destruct the room, but rather than wholly, only partially, so that the chemicals escaped and poured into the city. How did they escape? Well, someone helped them. Dusk vanished. Pain, indescribable pain, suffers the one who fell into the vat. Her skin burns off her bones, and her mind leaves the world. But then someone approaches her, a being with the head of a tiger, whose eyes glowed yellow with flames. "What's the matter, child? Do you burn?" "My father is wicked, but not as wicked as them. I must take vengeance." "Yes, yes, you must, and I will help you. Touch my finger and you will return to the living, but you will also carry something with you, a gift from me which you can use to punish your enemies. You will also punish my enemies. Who are you? Touch my finger." "Whatever, I'm dead anyway." And Emerald touched his finger and found herself flipped around for a moment and slightly stretched, then gently placed standing on the bridge in the now demolished personal refinery of her father. She felt a bit different. She used to be cold on her hands, and now they were warm. Her eyes were once tired and nearsighted, but now she could see clearly. She felt an abundant energy in herself, and a confidence that had once been absent. "Truly I am different," she said softly, as she stared at her hands. Then she ran to her room. She woke up the next day. Her father had gone to work. She hurried to school. She saw the news on the way there. Her father's company was ruined. Dusk would now claim all rights to the products which they had helped to develop. Her father would be imprisoned. Her soul was sad. Megan saw her. She gave Emerald a hug, to comfort her. They both cried. Kenneth walked by. They did not notice him. He left a gray stuffed bear with one eye on her desk, then smirked evilly and left. The bear, unknown to anyone, began to lose its fur. The fur entered the air and flew somewhere. Some of it made Megan sneeze. The bear lit on fire. The girls screamed. Trigon, the class jock, brought over a fire extinguisher. When the mess was cleaned up, a peculiar thing was left behind. A ruby in the shape of a heart. "What the heck?" said Trigon. "I want it," squealed Megan, and she grabbed it and pocketed it. Kenneth glared from his desk, then turned to read a rather boring book. Megan fell to the floor, drained of all her energy. She appeared pale, and dark circles were under her eyes. Emerald hurried to her, reached into Megan's pocket, and pulled out the ruby heart. The other students watched, surprised. The ruby heart glowed and tried to suck away Emerald's energy, but her hands became hot and oozing. Bubbling liquid emerged from them. Acid? It melted the heart, and a cry could be heard from the other side of the room, but no one turned to look. Megan returned to her usual self.